And welcome back, esports fans, for another game here at the PCS Week 4, Day 2. I'm still Pyrotechnics. He is still, of course, Clement, and our wonderful sponsors are still right there on the bottom of the screen. So convenient and easy to read. They're CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom. Thank you for making the PCS possible. Now let's get right into it, Clement. Our next match of the day is going to be Hong Kong Attitude taking on Machi Esports. And I'm just going to come out and say it. Hong Kong Attitude are struggling after that loss against Berjaya. They are in search of answers.
For sure. They're now looking at a 4-lose streak and potentially a 5th lose streak if they fall here to Machi Esports. So definitely feeling a bit on the ropes, and it's just I feel like it's kind of hard to see which direction they are going to take. I actually like their draft against Berjaya, but unfortunately for them, they still were not able to win in the final team fight, the final hurdle to get themselves in position to secure their playoff standings. So this is going to be very difficult for them. On the other hand, we also have Machi, coming off a lot of different struggles with the top teams here. They just dropped to PSG yesterday, and before that, they also dropped to Beyond Gaming last week. So I think both of these teams are in search for a little bit of a rebound. Hong Kong Attitude, we are going to take a look at the roster. It is going to be Bivin and K starting once more, coming in here. I did like what they did in the earlier game we saw today in Berjaya, which was they drafted themselves a team fight composition where if they were in position, they could always just open up on the enemy team and go into the Diana combo that we've seen. But I'm just not sure about Bivin's play. His champion pick in the Lee Sin, I feel like was very unorthodox for the Diana pick, and it just wasn't that effective overall.
Yeah, I think Hong Kong Attitude may have fallen a little bit into a trap during the draft phase, and maybe they got stuck with it. Maybe they just were trying to mind game their opponents a little bit. Didn't quite work out. I want to see a little bit more from this team, both in the draft and in the execution. Bivin's swap was, we're still waiting to see what he can deliver compared to Hong Sul, but we will have to find out because their opponents, of course, Machi Esports. No major changes for this squad. I do think one thing that the top teams have been able to do that others have not is shut down Jimian. Against weaker teams, Jimian is an absolute god. And honestly, the way Hong Kong Attitude are playing right now, that could be a challenge for them. Bivin coming in, facing off against Jimian's explosive potential.
I definitely don't want to see any more blind Silases. That has been the biggest weakness.
Bit of a crutch, maybe.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. We saw Malan going on to this set to counter it up. We also saw Maple pick up the Renekton to counter him. And once those AD bruisers gets locked in, the entire early game goes into the opposition. No amount of scaling allows them to come back into the game. So I do think they need to fix their game plan regarding that. But other than the Silas pick, I do think that Jimian can actually go back to the Akali. That's something we've been seeing in the LCK and the LPL a lot. Is that people have realized, okay, sure, she can't use her Q during the shuriken flip. It's a lot less burst damage, but because of the energy system that Akali uses, it doesn't end up being that much less of total damage over the same rotation. So we'll see if he does bring that back to the surprise, but we are going to be taking a look at the top lane here. I think Rock is much more of the caught between like early game and getting his team going and engaging, and Lee Kai is, I think, squarely into the camp where he's more of a split pushing top laner. We have seen a lot of blind Camille's just come out from his side, and he's actually pretty happy to take that against the Renekton matchup.
Yeah, I think that's something that can certainly suit him. One thing we do see is that both these top players have been unafraid to go for a set pickup in certain situations. Lee Kai a little bit more often. I think that's going to be more of a situational thing. Let's see as the picks and bans come in. Silas actually banned by Hong Kong Attitude.
Okay, that tells a lot to me, honestly. It means that Bivin probably doesn't have Set or Renekton in his champion pool. I think that's
what they banned Renekton too. A lot of focus on Jimian. Look at the Twisted Fate ban coming out.
Yeah, Jimian's Twisted Fate has also been really deadly and incredibly punishing as well. I'm very surprised about the Silas ban. I feel like that has been the biggest weakness that Machi has exposed themselves to. But it looks like Hong Kong Attitude are not in position to take advantage of it, and it should just be another Xin Zhao draft from the looks of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. That shouldn't be too much of a surprise here coming out for Kongye. We didn't actually see a lot out of Kongye last game, which kind of surprised me. He usually is the one trying to step up and make the big carry plays. Now, we've seen the Lee Sin locked by this team before and not gone into his hands, so I won't get too excited just yet, although I do think it would be a mistake. I didn't really like what we saw out of Biven's performance on that champion. With the Diana available, it is likely to be snapped up here by Gemini. Has been in his wheelhouse, but as you mentioned, Xin Zhao available. I mean, there's a lot of kind of options here for the Machi jungler.
Yeah, this is really open on how they want to take the draft. Machi's one of the few teams that isn't really high priority on Thresh. Usually you will see the Thresh being locked in here if it's available, but Atlan and Koala pretty much are just pure weak side on the Machi squad. So they are going to go for the Diana and jungle carry instead. We haven't seen Jimian actually play Yasuo, but he did play Yone last split. So it's possible that they can just go with Yone instead over the Yasuo. That also kind of works. It's pretty much the same combo, to be honest. Or they could go for the set on Jimian as well. A lot of options still open here. On Hong Kong Attitude side, Lee Sin first is pretty interesting. I like the idea with LeBlanc. Lee Sin plus LeBlanc is a lot stronger of a combination compared to Lee Sin plus Xin Zhao, because Xin Zhao's damage does tend to come in a little bit slower. He doesn't have as much range. So we will have just a really strong mid jungle. And I think Chowie is onto something. Strong mid jungles and dominating early games have been the downfall of Machi in the recent weeks.
Well, Hong Kong Attitude certainly have been taking notes. And the Ziggs, which has been a pretty big presence for the bottom side of the map, will get locked in yet again, this time for Eminem. Let's see what the Machi answer is in the mid lane.
Jimian's smiling, but I'm not sure.
I think he wants it. Swap up. I mean, it's still time. There's still time.
This is the more standard answer. We have seen Mission just play this matchup quite a bit. Just goes for the Immortal Shield Bow.
Yeah, it's always a possibility. I do get a little excited when I see a Lucian, but it's not for the reason you might think. I've just been spamming a lot of TFT lately, and every time it pops up at the shop, I'm just like, ooh, I need it. But we'll see how well Jimmy and pilots it. Yeah, exactly. I love Cannoneers, man. They're fun. They don't always win, but they're fun. They go boom.
Definitely on. For Hong Kong Attitude, they're still trying to round out with a blind side top laner. Usually our blind top picks, we have had Tom Kent, we have Dr. Mundo, both are available here. I think Tom Kent is a little bit stronger in the meta. Actually, with this composition, probably Mundo's better. We'll see what they actually go for here. I think the thing about Tom Kent is he requires more attention, while Dr. Mundo is just completely fine if you leave him alone. He can farm at a distance, it doesn't really matter. And the thing about Tom Kent, he gets into the middle of the wave, you crowd control him, he's just kind of dead. He's very difficult to keep alive, and you usually have to have someone like the Shy play him where all resources go his way. So maybe a Mundo coming out from Hong Kong Attitude here. Let's go with their poke theme as well.
Yeah, it gives him a lot of opportunities to really kind of front to back it with that. Jace banned away. Clearly, that's the worry that Machi had, and that's another champion that can dish a lot of damage from a back line. Last ban coming out here for Hong Kong Attitude, they've already taken away the Aurelia that was flashed. And it will be Camille. So Hong Kong Attitude don't really want a whole lot of heavy carry potential in the hands of Lee Kai.
So looking at Lee Kai's champion pools, he does still have the set, which I think is actually a pretty good combo piece with the Diana. The other champions he would have would be the Gnar, not having a great time in the PCS overall. He also does have the Dr. Mundo here. For me, that's kind of the go-to pick for both teams. Hong Kong Attitude might not want to go Dr. Mundo because they are lacking in terms of AD damage. It's not really enough on their side.
Right. It's interesting to see what the last choice is going to be here. I do like the Alistar if they want to set up like engages potentially. There's a lot of CC potential that brings. Honestly, kind of surprised that Thresh doesn't get picked by either team.
There we go.
Tom Kench is locked by Hong Kong Attitude. And that very well could be the top side. Rock's already shown it once.
Yeah, now that I look at the comp again, Tom Kench is actually okay here because he does have Lee Sin backing him up, and Lee Sin should have an easy time against Diana. It's not really going to be contested that much by the opponent jungle. And they're also considering taking away the set. I think that's a really smart move. A great piece that would fit into Machi.
Okay, so the set takeaway at the last second, that does leave Machi with a question to answer. What will be the final piece of the puzzle? Nara was talked about. I know it hasn't had a lot of success so far in the PCS, Clement, but I think Machi are confident that they can pull it off. There it is.
And we do have 7 top lane champions just banned away, so
Yeah,
feels like
go down the pool.
Doesn't really have that much to play. It's going to go for the Gnar at the end, and due to that pick, I actually really like what Hong Kong Attitude have. If you look at Machi, their combo is so difficult to set up. Like, they have a lot of champions that are incredibly vulnerable to just getting poked out by Ziggs and LeBlanc, and their combo themselves almost requires Mega Gnar to be online in order to utilize. So, just in terms of the drafting phase, I love what Hong Kong Attitude has done here. I feel like, hands down, they have the superior draft coming into this one. And I feel like Machi even know about it. Look at that laugh on Koala. That is not a confident laugh. That's a... Please don't hurt me too much
nervous
laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You know, we've seen this happen a couple times from Hong Kong Attitude, particularly earlier in the split. We see this draft, this really interesting, like, last-minute kind of switcheroo adaptation, and we kind of ride high on it, but the execution sometimes leaves something to be desired, so I'm curious to see how well Hong Kong Attitude pulled this off. I do like the takeaway. I do like the targeting of Lee Kai, and that does kind of seem to indicate that they may want to play through the top side, even if it is, you know, a bit of a tank matchup.
Yeah, and the smart thing about this draft is that they honestly could have swapped between who was playing top lane. Tom Kench could go there, and Seth can also be a support. So a lot of flexibility coming in onto this one. Overall, I feel like this is a draft where, like, I heavily favor Hong Kong Attitude. Like, unless Machi gets some crazy outplay, I don't really see how they're gonna win this one. To be completely honest with you, I feel like it's just that one-sided of a draft. And I'm a little bit disappointed in Machi coming up with this one. It just didn't seem like they were willing to go for the obvious answers. Instead, waiting for counter picks and kind of losing their edge with the early parts of the draft. Usually when you see the Diana and the set's open, you just go for the set. Like, you don't let the enemy deny it and go down to the last pick.
Yeah, especially with so many bans up towards the top side. So really curious, interesting adaptation here for Hong Kong Attitude. We'll see if they can pick up a win after a loss streak has been extended earlier today against the Berjaya Dragons. Hong Kong Attitude would certainly love to grab another one and keep themselves on the up and up. As there's only so many games left to play in the summer split, they don't want to fall out of playoff contention by stacking losses. Machi, interesting setup early on. Gemini actually moving into lane just outside the Fog of War. Not going to find anything, not going to really look for it either. He just was taking a perimeter sweep.
Taking a look at the setup here, a couple things to note is that we do have the teleport coming in from Bivin, not going for the crazy builds that he actually did quite a bit in spring. Like, he was one of those LeBlancs that definitely went for the Ignite. On the flip side, we do have Lee Kai with a more nimble build, not going for Grasp, instead going for the Fleet Footwork to dodge out on set a little bit more. And we also do have Jimian going for the Legends Bloodlust here, the Legend Bloodlines, excuse me, just for a bit more survivability. I do fully expect just the Immortal Shield Bow for coming out, and as usual with set cheeses, this is spotted out, and Rocket's gonna have a bad start to the lane.
Yeah, Gemini really clutch, just putting the word out there when he had his first sweep, and Rock had no idea that was there waiting for him. So nice adaptation by Machi to kick things off. No set cheese is going to happen today.
Looking at the mid lane here, we do have Bivin with a bit of roam potential when usually third wave comes around and you have the cannon minion with those 3 minion dematerializers. He can find a bit of jungle invade onto that Diana. And that's something that I feel like we have seen Machi do against J-Team. No, actually, it was Beyond Gaming against J-Team, where they just abused the Lucian plus Diana mid-jungle combo by killing Gemini over and over again. Killing Diana over and over again on her second buff. So we'll see if they can set up that play. But for now, I really like what Jimian is doing. He's warding for his jungler, making sure that Lee Sin can't contest the red buff. Just keeping everyone safe.
Yeah, as we get into this one, definitely watching what ends up happening with Gemini. Every time there's a Dan in the game, I think I mentioned it last time around, I always get a little excited. I'm waiting for that level 6. I'm waiting for the plays to start happening. But on the opposite side, I feel like Kongye is not going to be waiting around for that. It's a very active, very aggressive jungler. Kongye, one of the leaders in terms of kill participation, in terms of early action and early aggression. But they don't have to. Ooh, nice root chain on. But Jimian gives as good as he gets. you know, despite the matchup and, you know, maybe wondering what the solution is really going to get done in the early stages of the game, especially in the hands of Jimmy, and he can dish a lot of damage, a lot of poke back.
Yeah, and we are seeing this wave, I think, is very critical for Biven's chances at getting a lead here. At the very least, I expect them to get double scuttle for this one. Unfortunately, they don't actually catch out Diana. We can see the pings going down, potential 3v1 developing here. We also have a minion dematerializer used already, so this is what I was talking about. Around the 3:30-minute mark, it does give that opportunity for a roam. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like they're going to get that far off. Jumian also pushing very hard, and he conserved his mana quite well. Usually the problem with Lucian is that you don't really have enough mana to keep up with the poke and the wave shove at the same time, but at the very least, he's able to keep holding down Biven in lane. And now Gemini is coming for a very, very risky early dive. You don't really expect this with the Diana.
Is not finding anything he likes, so he's actually just going to go ahead and back away. Oh, wait a second. Never mind. As Eminem gets too close for comfort, and Gemini forces the flash away. That was beautiful.
Oh, the early pathing from Gemini was just so good here. He manages to dodge out on the Lee Sin as Korea comes in.
Yeah, Jimmy, are you going to be able to get away? Actually, Dashes holds his flash through all of that. Nicely played. Jimmy already off to a much better start than the last time we saw him on this champion. That was back against Beyond Gaming.
Yeah, very surprising to me that Hong Kong Attitude actually did fall for that. Machi did have a for that. They had the wave bouncing back, so that's why Eminem wanted to check that. I felt like he could have had his support check that with Kong Lash. Unfortunately, he does lose his flash for that. And I am running into a little bit of technical difficulties again, so I'm sorry, Pyro, but you might have to...
All right, I'm taking over. It's time for the Pyro analysis, everybody. But there's nothing to analyze right now because Rock caught Lee Kai for just a little bit of extra damage on the Haymaker. I haven't really talked about that top lane too much. It's not super interactive without the junglers getting involved, but I do think it is a little bit rough for Eminem at the moment without his flash, and that does mean either he could use some jungle attention, or potentially Gemini makes a repeat play down there. Once we get into the level 6 point, he's going for the clear on the camp up top side first. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we see a repeat trip down there. Atlan and Koala have been playing with a little bit of swagger here and actually getting an edge. We've seen a lot of Ziggs really get very far ahead, I think, just with how well they can clear, how much damage they can do. But a lot of it comes down to the support champion that gets picked with it. We saw earlier today that Trundle really made a huge difference. The combo and the poke potential. It's not the same with the Tahm Kench.
Yeah, for sure. And I am back into the fray.
Welcome back, Clement.
Thank you very much for holding down everything on
you got this.
front here. And I think an important thing to mention about the Tahm Kench is that this is a very different champion pre-6 compared to before. I think he's much better at going aggressive and just chasing down targets, but he doesn't have the ability to devour his teammate anymore, so you're much more susceptible to ganks and all-ins if you are the AD carry paired up with the Tahm Kench. And I think that's also why we saw Gemini with the very early pathing towards spot side, just getting a lucky summoner off, and that will allow them to snowball into an early Drake. And frankly, I don't think the double Lee combo has been able to do much right here. We don't see Kongre and Biven actually creating much action on the maps, so it's much more about the later stages of the game that they're looking to get poke and make up for it.
Interesting, yeah. Gemini, he actually hangs on to the flash, or the smite, I should say, so he can use it on the Scuttle Crab instead. A little cheeky, I do like it. Yeah, so Machi actually finding a nice little opening early on. You know, the early pressure from Hong Kong Attitude just really hasn't been there. There's obviously a lot of time left to play in this game, but I like the start that Machi have brought into it. And Kongye coming up straight for a lane gank, and the minions actually do a great job blocking for Jimmy, and so Kongye can't get into the backline there with Sonic Wave.
Timing definitely wasn't ideal on that attempt, but no, I think the camps aren't up yet for Kongye, and that's the thing about 11.14 or any patch after 11.13 is that you do have a lot more time to just go fish for ganks. And I like this about League of Legends a lot more. I felt like the earlier patches were just full clear to full clear, and they were so static. it gave laners quite a good time to be very aggressive and push their leads. But this feels a little bit better, where you constantly have to guess where the enemy jungler might be, and you have to play a bit safer right there. Nothing really lost on Kongre's end, nothing really gained on Jimian's side. They just fish around for a couple of ganks here, and now Machi does have level 6 and are in position to get the big combo down, and we'll see how they actually chain things together. For me, it's very difficult to see how they get the Moonfall. It almost feels like Gemini alone has to be the one to get everything chained up together. They're missing the set, and they're missing the Astro. Oh, never mind.
Oh, but they find the damage onto Bivin and actually force out the Mimic, or the clone, I should say. Gemini, meanwhile, keeps his eyes on the prize, and there goes Likai bringing them all into the party. It's Rock, who just goes for a big old haymaker, the Facebreaker, not enough to actually get a damage on, and Gemini finds 2. Kongye rooted up, doesn't have the damage to delete, and it's a clean 2 for none to pick off, as well as the Rift Herald. Machi, that was well played.
Yeah, it actually ended up being super easy, barely an inconvenience here. Didn't really expect that one to go so one-sided for Machi, but we'll watch that again. First off, Bivin just getting completely destroyed here was pretty bad for their chances. They lose out on all their mid damage, and then Rock just going into the combination made it pretty easy for Machi to just focus fire here. They even have time to flash emotes as they just open up on Rock, taken down first. In the meantime, the support and Kongre are going for Atlan. They just don't have enough damage. Like, Atlan flashes out, he's completely fine. Bivin is already out of the fight, and that was rather disjointed from Hong Kong Attitude. I felt like after they lost Bivin, and the follow-up from Rock ended up pretty poorly, there was no point really chasing anymore, and Machi just get a massive lead here.
Yeah, also, Eminem just wasn't really anywhere near to be able to do anything about that. I think he did have Mega Inferno Bomb available, but he wasn't really close enough to make it happen until the Herald had already gone down. It does seem like Hong Kong Attitude just weren't quite on the same page here. Gemini actually moving his way up. I think this may be where the Rift Herald is played, but he's going to try to bait Rock. Likai nearly complete on the Narbar. Rock should be respecting that. Gemini taking his time.
Doesn't have the ultimate just yet, but the Cannon Minion is enough.
Yeah, they're going to get the stun down and into the combo. He's got a shield, but it is not enough. Nicely played with a little 1-2. Likai and Gemini should be able to get this tower.
Oh, poor Rock. You're not the first one and definitely not the last to die for a cannon. That's, I feel you, man. You gotta go. You can't let the enemy team disrespect you like that. Very well played on Machi's side. They definitely read Rock's mind. They lined up everything correctly, and Rock, at the end, just stepped forward. Had no vision. Jungler wasn't there on that side of the map, and props to the Machi. I think a lot of these plays do come down to the fact that they're actually tracking Kongre quite well. You look at the bottom side, they have pings on him the entire time, and they're going to get a double charge here.
Yeah, that's nice. Always feels good if you can get a little bit of extra utility, extra value out of Shelly. Machi have done a great job of tracking Kongre this game, and hasn't just had an impact tonight. In fact, both games so far, we haven't really seen the Kongre of old, or at least the Kongre of usual, where he's just kind of in everyone's face all the time, sometimes to his own detriment, but he hasn't been quite as active, and I do think a lot of that in this game is certainly credit to what Machi have been able to do.
Yeah, the crazy thing to me about this game state is that Machi has been able to get here with 2 full Moonfall combos without ever using Meganar ultimate. Like, they just don't need it. They can find perfect Moonfalls without it, and
it's execution, right? Like, this is the team that just understands how to execute better. Even if it's a harder combo.
By this. Like, Hong Kong Attitude had so many opportunities to poke it out, but they kind of just went in like piecemeal, half by half, and just got decimated by Machi. And if you look at this game plan again, Kongre tries to fish for a gank in the bottom side. He's standing on a ward. Atlan and Koala stay completely safe. They get the inside track, and another Drake goes their way. So Hong Kong Attitude, I felt like they had the better draft. I really liked what their champions could do, and I felt like it was so hard for Machi X to actually execute any of this. I'm sorry, I shouldn't pronounce the X. Machi Esports. To execute any of this.
The X is silent, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the X is silent. It just hasn't been the case. Now Kongre finally getting in, though.
There we go. Looking onto Atlan. They will close the gap there. Teleport coming in for the follow-up. Koala is actually caught, but he's going to go golden to buy a little bit of time as Lekai and Gemini are in. And Machi really want to get some vengeance for their AD carry as Jimmy throws down the channel to Colin K. Tanks through most of it, but he can't last all the time. That's going to be Machi looking for even more here as the flash out from Gemini to save his own life. Lekai goes back into the mini-Gnar, is able to finish it off. It's chaos, but Machi are the ones controlling it. Jimmy guesses the correct LeBlanc, and he's gonna keep on charging. Can't quite find the damage, but that is a good play for a Machi off the back of losing Atlan.
A full 10-man engage in the bottom lane, and that was beautifully played by Machi's part. They do dodge on the Lucian, on the LeBlanc damage as they come into that one and save themselves from an extra death. We'll take it from the start here. Komir finally makes his way into this brush to get the early kill onto Atlan, but crucially, Atlan does find the Chains of Corruption on 3 to slow everyone down and allow Lekai to get some good damage up at the start of this one. Gemini, doesn't really clean up on the Moonfall, but they do herd the rest of the members onto the right side. And watch Bivin as he comes in here. He doesn't find the kill target. Great flash coming in from Gemini, and he actually stays alive through all of that. So just Machi able to show up on the spot a lot faster than Hong Kong Attitude after the initial kill. And right now, Lekai is just running away on this Gnar. Yeah, Gnar has been sub 50% win rate in the PCS so far. Not had a great showing, but this Gnar looks incredibly dangerous at this point.
I think we're going to possibly add another W to the Gnar win column and improve that performance a little bit today. Lekai has been looking great. The two-man Gnar against the wall certainly helped here. Koala baiting out Bivin in this one. But it is going to be the kickback into the tower. Koala maybe sacrificed here as the Mega Inferno Bomb comes in and Bivin with the last hit. But a lot of investment to secure a support here as Gemini tags in. Two-man Moonfall looking for more as K swallows up Big Gnar against the wall. The follow-up, the combo, and Gemini just like that. Cleaning house with a little help from his team.
Oh, that was so painful to watch from Hong Kong Attitude. They were trying to rotate to save their tower, but they were actually segmented off by Lekai on the left side. He manages to get into the fight regardless, still catch up with the rest of Hong Kong Attitude members, and had a great creep and slam onto the wall, leading into Herald play. That's got to be just lights out for Hong Kong Attitude. Look at how far they are behind, 7,000 gold at this point. So at the start of this
play.
Yeah, Koala gets a little bit too ham, going way too close to a Lee Sin right next to his tower. He falls down, so everything so far looking good for Hong Kong Attitude. But look at the left side of this play. Lekai is coming in with the perfect Mega Gnar bar. And watch Eminem as he unfortunately fails his flash here. He definitely did not want to flash in that direction. Didn't go over the wall and just dies into an auto attack straight afterwards.
Yeah, misplays from Hong Kong Attitude, but, also setting up for that, they do kill Koala, but they dump a lot into him, right? It's the full kick, I think the flash by Kongye as well, and the Mega Inferno Bomb by Eminem. It just means that, there isn't a lot left for that counter engage, so they turn tail and run, and unfortunately they didn't see Lekai coming in the Mega Gnar. Let's see what Bivin can get done. I thought he might have been going for a dive onto Jimmy in here, but probably not so advisable. Although he might get some help with Kongye.
Koala is spotted, so I think Bivin's fairly safe here still. Just going to wait around to see if there's any stragglers coming by, but they have to retreat pretty soon. Bivin's sweating in that brush. I can feel it.
Oh, yeah. He's not even starting a back. Still looking for an opportunity. Does manage to get out with the distortion. Okay, so everything is fine for right now. Machi definitely in control of this game with a sizable gold lead. And, dare I say massive at this point. About 7,500 gold ahead. Dragon advantage. They are stacking the Drakes with a decent timer as the Cloud will come up in another 10 seconds. Machi going to come together as 5. Hong Kong Attitude, they want to try and find a counter fight somewhere, but that is going to be the start by Machi as they get a quick pick onto K. Even dodge out the Mega Inferno Bomb. Nicely done with the Solar Flare from Koala. Bivin getting chunked down to half his health bar, and Hong Kong Attitude just cannot fight.
Yeah, they don't have the damage at this point. Machi are dealing far more, and Eminem's walking into Gemini.
Oh no! That was a terrible blast cone.
Yeah, very questionable on that one. G-Mian's also holding Hong Kong Attitude to this tower here. I don't think they can make the retreat. Here comes the kills.
Oh, big one. This time it is going to be enough as Gemini goes golden before the tower can target him. Shelly even hopped before the fight even happens. Kongye can't even clean up Gemini, and it is all Machi Esports. They get the tower, they get the kills, they get them onto Gemini, and they get out clean.
Ooh, Machi basically knocked out Hong Kong Attitude there. I feel like they were in a daze trying to defend that tower against a Herald. There was no reason to be there. You just have to let that one go and defend your inhibitor on that point. Very unfortunate for Hong Kong Attitude. So, you know, I think this game right now is pretty much we're waiting for a miracle to change the game state. But we can kind of go over what happened this game and what sort of went wrong for Hong Kong Attitude. Before that, though, we have to get into this fight. Again, Bivin tries to get some poke in, and I feel like K definitely overstays his welcome. Very well played on Machi's side. After they clear the ward, they just make a beeline towards K, catch him out very easily. And look at Bivin here. He's not even out-trading Atlan at this point. Also very smart from Gemini to actually just cut Eminem off. Very unfortunate. Eminem... Gemini just has mind-reading abilities. He's a Jedi. It's nothing you can do against him. And Hong Kong Attitude are also too late to retreat on this one. The Herald came from behind them, so that was really smart pathing from Gemini to force him in a terrible position. Actually, this whole sequence of plays is just Gemini just outsmarting the entire team from Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, and on the back of it, man, Atlan even gets a snipe off. I mean, it's, yeah, Machi just full control of this game, and Gemini is just a terror. Look at Kongye's health bar. It's non-existent as Gemini takes him down freely. 7 kills, 7 assists, 100% kill participation. This is the textbook definition of a Fed Diana.
I was waiting to see if Kongye was actually going to try and ward hop to that pink ward. He still takes it. But Gemini was waiting for him. He had his rocket belt waiting for him and just takes him out right afterwards. Very unfortunate for Kongye. No escape for him. Oof,
this is a 20-minute Baron. On spawn, they go for the big purple worm. Not a lot that Hong Kong Attitude can do. And it clears just so fast, it doesn't feel like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and... this just felt like Hong Kong Attitude, when they were on an even position, just gave up too much in the teamfight scenarios, and the fight is going on.
Chains of Corruption do not land. Koala perhaps a little bit optimistic there, but they're so far ahead. Even though he goes down, the fight's getting cleaned up by Machi. Gemini with the legendary kill as the full channel of the Colon gets interrupted, courtesy of M&M, but 2-for-1 traded already, even though they were the ones that kind of lost out a little early on. Here goes Kongye, Jimmy in, dashing, ducking, diving, but not enough to dodge out. All the same, Atlan still cleans up. They lose a couple of members with Baron buff, but I don't think they'll be too worried about it.
Oh, this has to be one of the most one-sided games we've seen in the PCS so far. Pretty unfortunate there. I think the game right now is about Hong Kong Attitude getting revenge on Gemini. Take the raid boss out. You gotta ruin his KDA. You can't let that man walk away, disrespecting Hong Kong like this. That's all I think Hong Kong Attitude can play for at this point. Alan's actually gonna stay completely fine here. And just, you know, talking about what went wrong this game, I felt like Machi just tracked Kongye from the start of the game way too well. They were able to avoid the initial pathing by just going with the opposite start, and then got an early lead. Eminem blows his flash. They take that into our first Drake, and then they move it into our Herald, where Hong Kong Attitude lose 2 members, they lose a ton of Summoners, and they also lose Herald at the same time. So, it's just a Hong Kong Attitude. I felt like they lost grip of the game very early on. We never saw LeBlanc, Lee Sin being able to get, like, any kills together. And yeah, things just kind of deteriorated from there. Unfortunately, they had this very lane-dominant sort of approach to the game, which I actually like. I felt like a lane dominant approach is pretty good against something like Gnar and Diana that's pretty slow, and then you have Machi's bot lane, which is typically their weak side. So I like the draft a lot, but unfortunately for them, the execution for Machi was just miles better.
And that's kind of been the story of a lot of Hong Kong Attitude's losses, is, you know, it looks like they have a great plan in the draft, it just never comes together. And I think Machi, to their credit, they just played so well, even in lanes that may not have been supposed to win. They were able to out-execute more often than not. Keeping track of Kongye was certainly key to their early game, and just snowballing it forward. That's Mega Inferno Bomb to look for the cutoff here, and maybe this is the opportunity to try and turn it around, but no way! Machi are just too far ahead. They lose Koala, but that is absolutely no problem as they clean up everyone but Eminem. I think this one's going to be over quite soon.
Bivin tries to go back against Atlan, but Atlan just one-shots him with an auto attack, and Eminem has to scurry away towards his fountain. Machi are going to decimate Hong Kong Attitude's hopes, send them on into a 5-lose streak. As they celebrate in front of the fountain, they have clinched their playoff spots, and they're looking incredibly strong going forward.
Machi Esports looking better and better. Maybe a handful of questions from this team against the top flight of the PCS, but certainly against the rest of the competition, they have looked great. Difficult to execute composition, but it worked out.
A meme a day keeps Hong Kong Attitude away, which is what they're trying to do in the backline here, playing some badminton. We did have a lot of great performances from the Chinese Taipei team in the Olympics right now, so just a bit of context about why they're going with badminton instead of any other sport in the background. Yeah.
I mean, it's a great game, right? I mean, why not? Why not pick badminton?
Exactly. Gotta love the game. Gotta love the the fighting spirits coming out from Machi. Just I feel like that badminton is probably Chowie at this point. They're just hitting him back and forth,
tossing back and forth, hoping for something to stick. Yeah.
It's a bit of a feels
I
bad.
think Hong Kong Attitude, they just don't have answers, and they've tried roster swaps. I've yet to see anything particularly convincing out of Bivin to justify it. I mean, I don't want to put everything on his shoulders, but I felt like Hong Suo was growing well with the team, so that move did baffle me. Maybe they just weren't very happy with it overall, because Wen did come in a little, for one game. But Hong Kong Attitude they have good drafts. They're just not able to pull them off a lot of the time, and as a result, they drop another one in the loss column.
I think Hong Kong Attitude are trying to go back to Spring Split, where they had Kong Yue, and after they had him, the team actually had a 50% win rate. And statistically speaking, if you put Kong Yue and Bivin together, they did have a better win rate compared to Kong Yue and Hong Suo. That being said, though,
technically yes.
Yeah, that's a very results-based analysis, and I don't think it was necessarily true to begin with, because the rest of the PCS has just gone a lot better. That's very evident in teams like Liab. You might not think Alpha Esports has gotten better. I think you could be justified in making that case.
But there's growth around the league. I think
yes.
that seems to be the point you're making, right? Like, it's Hong Kong Attitude are trying to go back in time, but the problem is you can't really win that way against a league that's just evolving, that's getting better on the whole. You might be able to beat some of the weaker squads, but as we're seeing, it certainly doesn't work against the top playoff teams. And at this point, Hong Kong Attitude are in a place where, yes, they're still in position to lock playoffs just because top 8 will do it, but it's possible a team like Liab, who's resurging, could knock them off of that if they don't win any more games going into the last week and into tomorrow as well. So, HKA have to watch their back. They have to find some improvement in form. This, because this ain't it, This was not a game that they really were able to find much of anything.
Yeah, and it's very hard to see which direction Hong Kong Attitude will take, because to be completely honest, I feel like they might need to take different strategy approaches to teams of different calibers. I feel like if they had this draft against a team like Impunity and like a team like Liab, they would be fine. I think they're good enough laners where they can definitely carry this through, and they're going to find early kills. They're going to be able to snowball. Against a team like Machi, even when Machi are playing, kind of weak side top lane, weak side bottom lane, they're still able to get through the laning phase completely okay, and they just execute so much better in the Drake fights. If I want to point out like one glaring weakness I think Hong Kong Attitude has just been completely decimated at, it's those early river objective fights. They do not deal with early objective fights very well. I feel like their members are not on the same page when they come to it. They don't know if they're trying to poke, put damage on, and encircle later, use the objective as a bait, or are they trying to go for the objective itself? I think that's always the most critical call. Are you actually trying to secure the objective, or are you just trying to take a better fight off of it? And you could see in Hong Kong Attitude in the first straight fight, Rock was clearly trying to go for the objective itself, while the rest of the team was just trying to poke. And they're just not on the same page when it comes to it. It's a very, very fight-oriented meta, so I hope they can clear that up in terms of calls. But, of course, MVP goes to Gemini. First pick red side, Diana.
No question.
Flawless KDA here, 100% kill participation. You all knew it was happening. Congratulations to Gemini for carrying his team once more.
Yeah, Gemini doing just such a great job on this champion. 1-6 happened. We talked about how basically the big trap for the Diana was to just not fall prey to Kongye's Lee Sin early on. And he not only avoided the Lee Sin, he was able to just get so much more done across the map. And once he got a couple of kills in his pocket, he just started rolling. And as you mentioned, a perfect KDA, absolutely beautiful out of Gemini. But that is going to be putting a lid on this game. We'll be back with one more. It'll be Beyond Gaming taking on Impunity right after this short break.